Hello, all, and welcome to the Mixmax product tour. I am Olaf Mate, happy to have you all here. I am the CEO and co-founder of Mixmax and wanted to take you of a brief overview of the platform and some recent features that we have. We'll actually mainly be doing a screen share during this webinar, so I'm going to switch over to that shortly. Just some kind of logistics before we start. So we're using the software called Crowdcast, and we would love to have this as interactive as possible. So there is a section on the right in your overview window where it says Q&A. So feel free to ask questions there, and you can also upvote questions that other people ask. And then we'll try to give priority to answering those questions when we get to Q&A. So really looking forward to having you all here. And I think that's it with regards to how the overall setup of the webinar works. So with that, let's get started. And I will shift over to a screen share so we can dive into Mixmax. Bear with me just a second. And the way I think we'll do this is we'll start with this overview of 15, 20 minutes, something like that, just to go through some of the recent really time-saving and productivity-enhancing features, and then dive into QA after that. So thanks for tuning in. Let's see here. I'm going to go and share my screen. Just a second. Excellent. So you should now see my Gmail and my screen. So first of all, I sent out a Mixmax poll earlier, I think it was yesterday, just to get a sense for how many, what areas you wanted us to cover in this webinar. So the couple of topic areas were around instant scheduling and events, which seemed to be the most popular one, followed by simulator and reminders. So I'll kind of start with that as we go through the product and dive through these different areas. So thanks for voting in that poll. You might notice, by the way, in this poll that there are highlighted bars, and these poll results are actually live. So these are results that you've all submitted, and every time you vote in the poll, you actually get a live preview of it. So with that, let's dive in. It was great to hear what areas you were most interested in, and hope you'll all find that type of functionality helpful. So let's dive into some recent Mixmax goodness and time-saving features. So of course, all of you are kind of well familiar with Mixmax as a product and platform. Overall, of course, we're kind of trying to unlock the future of email to make email that's not flat and unproductive, but email where your recipients can take action. So instead of having to send 10 emails to achieve a specific goal, you can just send one to achieve the very same thing. This can be for setting up meetings or for sharing docs, for understanding how best to follow up with recipients based on analytics. So let's dive in overall. The core part of Mixmax, of course, is the bottom bar here, where you have most of the added functionality. And I'll just start here. Obviously, we have email tracking. So I noticed there were some questions on that, so we'll dive into that in a little bit and here and see if there are any questions on it. But of course, any email you send with Mixmax can be tracked. And if you want, you can also choose to enable desktop notifications, both individually and on a default basis for any emails you send out. Very, very helpful for knowing if someone's read your message, and then if they have, how to follow up based on how many times they've actually read the message. So I noticed there was a lot of interest for instant scheduling and events in the group. So let's dive straight into that. The way you access that in Mixmax is via this little calendar icon. And there are two really time-saving features here related to calendaring. One is to share your availability, and the other is to send calendar invites. These correspond to quite different use cases. Sharing availability here is for when you're trying to set up time to talk to someone, potentially a sales prospect. and you're trying to agree on a time to meet. The current kind of default way this works today, right, is you send 10 emails back and forth to align on a common time. With Mixmax, of course, this is just one email. And I'll dive in and show you how this works in just a bit. The other part of calendaring here is sending a calendar invite. So this is for the case where you've already agreed on a time to meet, and you want your recipients just to confirm that they're willing to meet at the agreed upon time directly in the email. So it's really, really helpful for the kind of next steps type email or an email with your team where you're sending out an event invite and you want people to RSVP directly. Let's look at what these two actually look like and how they work. So if I go in, I can choose to share my availability, and it looks like since I'm actually going to have to share part of my screen here, since otherwise it probably won't pop up. Let me see if I can solve this easily. Just a second. And I am going to do this. And let's see if I do that, if that will actually work better. Let's give that a try for now, just for the availability piece. So to set up the calendar, I can go in. I'll also show you some keyboard shortcuts for accessing this. But here it will fire up my calendar. And going here, I can easily just select some times I'm available. If I hold down Command, when I set up times, it will automatically chunk this time slot into time slots that I've set as per the default meeting length up in the top right. I can also, of course, set the title and location. So here I'm just going to say Google Hangouts. These will all autocomplete too with your recent chosen options if you choose to set up a lot. And what's really nice is, we prevent double booking. So if one of these times should be booked after you send them out, we'll propose alternate times. So as I insert these show up directly in the email, and when a recipient clicks on any one of these times, the meeting is automatically set up. So very, very helpful if you're trying to set up if you want to share availability to meet someone whose calendar you might not have access to. Another really nice part about scheduling an event is to just send an event invite. So this is great for the case when you've already agreed upon a meeting time. And here you'll just get up your calendar and say it's for a team event or something. Today is Bastille Day, so I'm going to do a team drinks later on in some park, and insert the event invite. So this invite, as you can see, is a little bit different. This is just a yes, no, and a maybe. So it's very similar to a default calendar invite. Here, when recipients click yes, no, maybe, their results will automatically update. So if they click yes, the button will turn green, and if they click no, it will turn red. But it's really nice in that you can add other information directly to the context of this email. So you can share more about the meeting, or perhaps you want to insert a map directly directly in the email. Let's see if this will actually work. Directly in the email to say, hey, this team drink is happening somewhere in San Francisco. Those are the two main time-saving features around calendaring. And of course, if you want, you can trigger these with keyboard commands. So to send your availability, you can type /cal and enter. If you want to share an event invite or send an event invite, you can type /event and enter. It'll create those automatically. So that is some of the recent goodness with regards to calendaring. And of course, to set up this webinar, we used the event invite that we sent that you all RSVP'd to. So that's on sharing your availability and setting up events. Let's dive into the other topic you manifested a lot of interest around, which was reminders and send later. So let's look at those two. Here we have a little alarm bell and we have a little clock. So the alarm bell is for reminders and the clock is for send later. So say you have a reply, for example, here, I'm gonna pretend to reply to my own email. Sorry, my computer's a little bit sluggish here. I can choose to set a reminder for this reply at specific times. I can choose to get a reminder about it if there has been no reply or if it has not been read, or whether or not it has been read or received a reply, and select what time. If I want to, I can also select a specific time when I want the follow-up to happen. So in this case, it might be Thursday, 1 p.m., which happens to be July 16th. I'll set the reminder for this reply. So this is very, very helpful if you're maintaining a conversation with someone and you want to make sure that the conversation doesn't flip, or that you're prompt about following up with someone when needed. The send later functionality serves very much a similar context. So send later is really, really great if you're working with people in different time zones, or if you're, for example, working very, very late at night, you can choose to send your email at a later time. So say I'm working very late at night and I know that the person I'm emailing either doesn't check their email late at night, or would prefer, or it would look bad for that person to receive an email late, or I know that that person simply just checks their email in the morning. I can choose to, for example, just click here and send the email in the morning for them. Or if I'm working across time zones, I might know that my morning is actually late at night for that person, and I might choose to send it just later on in the afternoon when it happens to be morning for them. So I can choose here specific times to send the message at. So those are the kind of two things around send later and reminders. It's obviously very, very helpful in terms of making sure that your recipients will actually read their emails, the emails that you send them and get them, because we do get a lot of them, and then reminders so that we know how to follow up on emails. Great. With that, let's shift over to another topic you said you wanted to hear about, which was Mixmax templates. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. The templates menu can be found down here. It's the hamburger icon. And you can simply click, here's basically your list of templates, and you click on any template here to insert it. Let's see what this, well, that wasn't a very interesting template, but I'll type up a new message. Let's grab a coffee, and there's going to be some event here. And I'm going to want to reuse this, say, because I'm sending it to multiple people, but individualized. So let me propose the noon slot. So if I want to save this message as a template, I will go in and just do save this message, and it will show up in the list. So if I ever want to reuse this exact same message, I'll just use that reply and it will pop in straight away. If you want to, you can also edit your templates separately in the Mixmax dashboard. So the Mixmax dashboard is also accessible here on the left. But if you want, you can also edit templates by accessing them here. And what's really nice here is we can actually create separate names for templates. So this might be the coffee template that I generally want to use. And now I've renamed this template. So as we go back here, we see that name is instantly reflected in the message. What's nice is if I want, I can use a keyboard shortcut for these templates too, and just do /t coffee, and it will bring up the template with that name. So very, very convenient accelerator that should literally save you hours in the day by using. That's more on templates. Let's see what else you guys in particular wanted to cover. So we spoke about send later and scheduling events, templates. Let's dive into polls and surveys a little bit. So polls and surveys are one of many types of Mixmax apps or message enhancements. One of the things we do is, of course, this entire new message window is a very powerful window. And with Mixmax, you can create almost any kind of app-like experience that you want within this message window. So a very popular kind of app or message enhancement, especially in a business context, is polls and surveys. You can access them in a couple of ways. You can go to the plus menu here, and this plus menu has kind of the full overview of all the different types of apps and message enhancements that are available. Now, this is a little bit of a laundry list of items, and we're going to clean this up, but two of the ones you see are polls and then Q&A surveys, and a very, very simple type of survey called yes, no. I'm going to trigger these using keyboard shortcuts because, again, all Mixmax functionality is available by just tapping accelerators. So I might want to do a poll, for example, with my team. And what's really nice is you can even use these polls to actually, for scheduling purposes, to kind of set up meetings, or if you have a lot of people who need to agree on a specific time to meet. So, for example, when should we do the happy hour? Be Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday noon. So this is my little quick poll just to figure out kind of doodle-esque style when people can meet. If I want to, I can click this option here, which means that recipients will be able to see the results when they vote. And that's exactly the type of poll I used here, where the results are dynamically created. So here I just created a poll where recipients can vote, on when the happy hour should take place. And as the organizer, you can then kind of tally when the most popular time might be to a vote. Obviously, you can use this in a ton of other contexts too. And if you want, you can also simply choose not to make the results public to anyone, to the recipients, if you have a more sensitive topic. And that is polls. If you want, you can also have text-based polls and surveys, very, very helpful in customer support contexts. So what do you like most about Mixmax? What would you like us to build next? And here the recipient can fill this out directly in the email and send the answers with just one tap rather than having to respond to the email. What's really nice about this, of course, is that the input's much more direct, and then you as a sender get structured input back straight away. Now, I want to show you a third type of poll, which is simply called the yes-no poll. This is really nice for getting very quick answers to simple questions. And it's really nice on the recipient because on the recipient side, you really just need one tap to respond. So here it might be, is this the final copy on the marketing site? You're asking perhaps your contractor about who is making the copy for a marketing site. And this will just input a button, or this poll with three buttons, yes, no, and then the custom text I add. And if I wanted to, I can click this crayon here to edit the text, perhaps back into the maybe for the site. So that's on polls and surveys. And of course, there's much, much more here you can do if you want in kind of the app world with Mixmax. So if you're technical, you might actually want to send perfectly formatted code to someone. You can just trigger that with 3 kind of backticks and insert code. I don't have any good examples here, so I'll just do an alert. So I'm going to choose some different theme here for those of you that like that kind of stuff. But anyhow, you get the gist. So if you're sharing logs or something like that, you can actually do them in a format that your technical colleagues will recognize. Another really, really nice app, not to get too ahead of myself here, is the secret message. So the secret message is incredibly helpful in contexts where you don't want a paper trail and where you might want the message to expire. So here I can, it's also really useful for sharing passwords, actually. So If you want to share a password, you can, my password is let me in for this thing. This is just a code to access the app. I can choose an expiry date on the message itself. So this will insert this little blurb here that you'll actually need a password to access. And in this case, I used the password access, which I can easily share with the recipient here, given that this message will expire in time anyhow. So really, really great when, a paper trail isn't appropriate, or you, for other reasons such as password sharing, you want to have the message expire in time. So that's a little bit on the polls and surveys and the kind of wealth of apps that are available within Mixmax, just so you can get more done in email in less time. Perhaps last, before we open up for questions, is around link previews. So let's go in and look at that. I'm going to take something from Crunch here. So a really nice thing, and let's actually also go in and take something from YouTube. So Mixmax would create visual previews for links, or kind of like cards, obviously, because let's see what we've got here. Whatever. Just to provide email that's has much more context than you would otherwise have. And same for, looks like my email is a little bit slow. Oops. Right, so I'll get some links there. One from YouTube. Put that in. And as you can see, it creates this really nice visual preview, which is incredibly helpful in terms of giving the recipient a sense for what the message is about. It's also really great if you're sharing product videos with your customers, so that they can get an instant view of what your product's about. What's nice about this video will play directly within your Gmail without having to context switch, so that's really nice. And let's grab some other article with TechCrunch. You can try this from whatever what other service or whatever website you have, and see what the preview link will look like. But if I post that in, I'll get a nice visual preview here where instead of just a blank link, I'll actually see what this article is about, and it will be a little bit visual. So you get a sense for what it's about before you click in. Now, say you've actually posted in a link and don't want the preview. Well, then you can either just undo with Command-Z to have the link be as is, or if you actually, another way to undo is just simply use this back arrow here to create a link. And the same goes for the YouTube preview, just to give you full flexibility in terms of what your actual message looks like. So that's a little bit on link previews, and we're very happy to customize what these looks like depending on the needs for your business. So those are some other core features. And perhaps to wrap up before we take questions, just to show you the dashboard a little bit here. You might have seen in Mixmax this little side panel. So it's really helpful for seeing both, if you scheduled any emails with send later, you'll get the full list there. And I'm just going to dive in here straight away to the dashboard to give you a quick overview of that. So now I didn't actually send any emails later, but otherwise you'll see the list of emails you've sent later. You'll get an overview of the polls you've sent. Here's the poll I sent earlier, but no one's voted on it yet. You'll have templates that you can create and manage and give names to in the template section. If you have a signature, you can create one here. And of course, if you have multiple send as accounts, you can create different signatures for different accounts. We have different types of settings here. So if you want to, you can actually change your theme into a different color. I'm going to choose green here. You can choose the standard font if you want. You can have undo send. So there's a lot of customizability here depending on your own needs. And last but not least, which we really hope you do, is that you go in and share Mixmax with your friends. So here in the dashboard, we'll propose some people for you to share with, or if you want to share on Twitter or Facebook, that would be absolutely fantastic. So that is that on Mixmax. I'm going to go in and just change the screen share here for a second, and then we can go in and Let me see here. There we go. Perfect. And as you can tell here, since I changed my theme, my window now is green, so you can change it nicely to whatever corporate, to whatever corporate color you happen to have. Now for now, just change it to purple, since that's kind of the Mixmax colors. So let me pause there for a second. That was quite an overview. I'm sure there were some questions. So let's go through and answer those. Let's see what we have. So I'm going to take a second to read through this. There was a question of notifications. I think there's a question there on send later and notifications, text formatting, and questions about Slack integration. Great. Let's dive in and answer these straight away. So firstly, there was a question from Sasha here. And from, let's see, Gary on notifications around sent email. So you should be seeing notifications on sent email, provided that you have elected to actually see notifications for your email. And notifications will typically show up here in the top right, and they'll show up as soon as your recipient actually opens their email. So I wish I could test this with someone right now just to show you, but do let me know if they're not showing up for you, and we'll dive in. Of course, here I'm going to just show you in, actually I'm going to dive in probably here to my personal email for a second, just to show you what what the actual analytics notifications look like in the sent view. Sorry, my internet's a little bit slow, but it's good that the Hangout is still keeping up. Let's see, sent. Typically for sent notifications, there will be a little, I'll go there for the time being more loads. There will be a little Wi-Fi or radar icon on the side of the message, which will show you all information about who's opening a message. One thing that's very unique about Mixmax is that we show you, even for groups, who exactly in the group has opened a message. So you'll see that by the Wi-Fi icon itself. And yeah, sorry about this, the internet connections is a bit slow. I might just do that here. And it looks like there's a little internet glitch, so those not letting anyone. I'll show you that shortly anyhow, but those notifications should show up there. Got it. We had a question here too about resending an email on a specific date. So this is a question from Jose. I think the question reads, is it possible to resend an email to myself even there are more addresses on the email on a specific date and time? So that does sound very much like send later. So Jose, if you're online, do let me know if I've understood that question correctly. But basically, independent of who you happen to have as a recipient in the two fields, send later will work, and just send the message at the time you've elected. Great. A question by Wayne here. Do you have any Slack integrations now or planned? So Wayne, I'd actually love to hear from you offline too on what type of integration would be most helpful. We have Slack integrations planned, and mainly the ability to kind of take an email and then throw it into a Slack channel on a kind of by email basis. So would be great to hear from you what type of integration would be most helpful. I might actually just follow up with you offline after this. And let's see what else. We had a question about the option of setting the color of my text without having to copy and change manually within the email by Erin. So this question is about text coloring. So let's actually just go in and show how that works. Here is text coloring. So if you want, you can go in the just font menu and choose both for background color and text color. And if you want, you can actually double click. This UX is not very discoverable, but I think actually the common use case in which this would arise would actually be in a reply. So I'm going to maximize that window. Let's say you're replying inline here and you want to use different colors. So I have that for now. And I want to respond in different colors here. So I want to respond in blue. I would go in and I can go into blue. Now, if I just click once and go, hello, Erin, this is what I think. That's all great. But the second I change line, I'll still be back in black, which can be a little bit frustrating. It's typically quite frustrating in Gmail. You can do to avoid that, simply to double click on the color and it will set it permanently. Here is my second thought. So here you're basically in blue all the time wherever you type because you can permanently mark the color as such. Now, if I want to switch back, I can just click once in black and back to black. So that's how that color functionality works. Great. Then there was a question from Sai here around how we know when different people are reading different parts of the thread. So that's a little bit related to our secret sauce actually around how we know for a group thread who is reading the email. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, but you are correct in that other services generally only know whether an email is being opened or not. But with Mixmax, if you send to a group of say 5 people, you'll be able to know exactly who in that group opened the email and when, which is something that's very unique. So let's see here, some questions from Archie. And I think we covered the other questions around notifications and Slack integration and analytics. Great, let's dive into some of Archie's questions. So on templates, so is there a way to customize them with kind of open fields? So you can write, hey, first name, and then have that first name automatically complete. So currently there isn't really, but it's something we're working on, so that should come soon. So great to hear that that's useful. And then a question on if there's an option in development to auto-reply to certain emails with a template based on certain criteria, for example, keywords. So it sounds, I'd actually love to follow up with you on this one, Archie, offline to hear kind of what the auto-reply would look like. I would think for now, the best option here would simply be actually to use templates for part of this. So I could really easily put in, the template that I had created just based on the template's name. I would encourage you to try that out and see if that can meet your needs for the auto reply in the time being. And then I'd love to follow up with you on that. And last question here from Archie. Is there, in the sharing panel, is there a way to just pick the user to share with? Just enter an email rather than having to pick someone. So Archie's referring to the sharing menu here in Mixmax, and obviously that's kind of a test account, so there's no one really there. But as you note, there's no way to just type an email here, but these are emails from your contacts. So for the time being, there isn't, but it's something we're adding. So that's also a great ping and great validation of that. Thanks for that. Let's see. New question from David here. Are the keyboard shortcuts documented anywhere? I love how you all are anticipating the roadmap. So no, they're not, but we're adding that in. There is one way, though, in which you can see keyboard shortcuts. So if you hover over the templates menu, for example, you'll see a little tooltip here. It says shortcut type/T to insert a template. Generally, if you hover over something, a tooltip will appear and will tell you what the keyboard shortcut is. So that can be a way of seeing, I didn't do it there, but a way of seeing what the tooltips are. So here for the calendar invite, you can tap /event, for a poll/poll, for Q&A survey /QA, for yes/no /yes/no, secret message /secret, for the SMS app /SMS. So those are some ways in which the keyboard shortcuts are exposed. And we're doing some work to make this much nicer so that they're more visible and that you get smart suggestions based on what you type. So for example, today, if you type in an emoji, we'll convert it, but it is, that obviously is not something that's discoverable either. So question from Daryl, since you're obviously in advance, can you share other tools you like in addition to Mixmax? Yeah, absolutely. This was a question from Daryl on other tools we'd like in addition to Mixmax. So happy to share a little bit about kind of the tool chain we use at Mixmax. So a product we used for kind of transactional or bulk email, since obviously in Gmail you're a little bit limited in terms of the number of emails you can send per day. So if you want to use bigger blasts, we use a tool like Customer IO, which is really helpful for sending emails to specific segments. Then I would also recommend looking into some of the analytics products that exist out there if you want to send bulk email to specific segments. So it can be tools like Amplitude or Mixpanel or Intercom, also quite helpful for that. And then, of course, there are a host of CRMs that are kind of email related, none of which we use actually, that might be helpful to look into. Hope that answered your question there, Daryl. If not, please do follow up with me individually. Great. Let's see if we had any other questions. I'm going to stop the screen share there for a second and dive back in. Let's see if we had any other questions looking at the screen. Excellent. Well, thank you so much all for joining. That was really, really great to see these questions. This webinar will live online, actually, on the YouTube links. You can go back and look it through, and I'll follow up with some of you individually asked questions too, just to make sure we heard you out and got them. Perhaps as the last thing, what would be very helpful would be if you all who are still on the webinar wouldn't mind upvoting Mixmax on Product Hunt. So since we released the ability to send events in email and the ability to prevent double bookings, we landed on Product Hunt again. So it would be awesome if you wanted to go in and upvote us. You can find us in this list that I'm going to post in the chat. Oh, there was the chat here. Nice. I should have followed that better during the overall conversation. Great. It looks like somebody got trouble with audio. There was also a question here, are there tutorials available? There are actually. So the best way for tutorials is actually to go to mixmax.com/the-overall-blog. So I would do that for tutorials and then check out overall feature announcements. Oh yeah, and Daryl, on Reportive, I actually use Reportive too on the side. So yeah, fantastic. If you guys don't mind sending us an upvote on Product Hunt, that'd be hugely helpful. Thanks so much. Hope this webinar was helpful. And if you have any feedback or something we could do differently or topics we should consider covering next time, please send us an email to hello@Mixmax. You can also reach me personally on Olaf, OLOF, @mixmax.com. So with that, thank you so much for your time, and please give us a little shout out on Product Hunt or a comment if you like the product. Thank you, and have a good one. Bye.